everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a beginner sci-fi recommendation video. Now, I have 5 adult sci-fi recommendations for you today, and then a few like honorary mentions that are like tentative recommendations for this, but I have 5 main ones that I want to talk about today. On my thinking about, creating this video, I figured because I am very new to sci-fi myself, it would be kind of good to do this video to say these are the books that I found really interesting and really made me fall in love with sci-fi as I started to get into it last year. So without further ado, let's just dive into this. So number 1, I think, just for this video, this is not in any particular order, across all things, is Becky Chambers. Now, I absolutely love her Wayfarer series, and that is where I would start with A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Start there, because this is what really, really hit me. When I originally started doing this kind of dive into sci-fi in 2021, I started with a video that I called Reading Out of My Comfort Zone, and this is one of the ones that I read for that video, and I absolutely fell in love with Becky Chambers and her writing and her stories and everything that she does. So this leans more speculative than it would what people usually think of a classic sci-fi would be, but it is set in a operatic kind of space world, a universe, literally the universe. And you have everything from different kind of alien species that you come into contact with living on a spaceship and all of that nestled in a story that's just about humanity. And it's just these people functioning on this ship in this allotted time space that we kind of look at. And the first one specifically follows a cast of people, and our main character, I would say, is human. So it allows you to kind of center yourself in this world. But as you go forward in the Wayfarer series, they are companion novels, but they do kind of link together. There is similar characters or threads that follow through each of the stories. The last one has no human characters in it at all. It is all aliens. And I think the last one is my favorite one. I absolutely adore Becky Chambers, and I highly suggest you start with her. Number 2 is still a Becky Chambers, and that is this lovely little novella, To Be Taught If Fortunate. And this one is more of a space exploration story in a really tiny little bite-sized piece. So if you aren't really if you don't want to dive in to the speculative humanity-esque of the Becky Chambers Wayfarers because it's centered in a space opera, this would be probably for you if you are into technology and science. But this is a very, very approachable little slice of sci-fi. And it looks like it goes with the Wayfarer series because of the covers, but it doesn't. It is a complete standalone. It is just wonderful. It is just wonderful. It does have Becky's classic humanity lean to it. It's a little bit speculative, but it actually is set on a spaceship, and these people are exploring the universe. They're doing a mission out in space, and they are recording it for whoever will read their findings when the findings are sent back to Earth. Definitely love that. And I love Becky Chambers, as you can tell, because she's the first 2 recommendations on this list. I think next I would recommend the Murderbot series. I have only read the first one myself, but I found it to be so approachable, even though we are following in the point of view of a robot. So Murderbot is a designated killing machine, not really a killing machine, but he is a guard robot. In a way, he is programmed to do one specific thing, but this specific Murderbot has managed to override that system, and all he wants to do is sit there all day and enjoy content. He just likes to, watch stuff and read stuff for hours, and he doesn't really want to approach people because he's so socially awkward. So there's such humanity in that robot. That's why I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to continue with the series. But again, it is in a novella form, so they are very small, little bite-sized pieces of sci-fi, just wonderfulness, So yeah, definitely Murderbot is on this list as well. Now, leaning back into novels, I definitely would suggest, if you want something that's super approachable and familiar but with a twist, I would definitely suggest Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Now, I didn't love this when I read it, but everybody else and their mother seems to absolutely love this series, so I am in the minority. I guess. But this, I would pitch it to you as the Hunger Games on Mars, adult Hunger Games on Mars, because we are dealing with a society on Mars, and it kind of feels like our main character, Darrow, gets pitched into this game. He gets pitched into a game for the middle of it. It feels rather like the Hunger Games, like a fight to the death kind of vibe. And it's such a familiar thing to read, and it is very easy to read, but it's set on Mars, which is kind of cool. This is just an interesting little look at like society as it would be in the future if they had colonized Mars, and the people that live on Mars and do the work for the rich people don't even know that like there's life outside of what they do, and like they're mining and stuff like that. So Darrow gets pulled from that and basically dropped into the rich world after a huge undergoing of his own personal like appearance and stuff like that to fit in with this higher society. And he's set out by this rebel group to infiltrate the society and like, you know, take it down from the inside. It's one of those things. But yes, that's why I recommend it, because it feels like the Hunger Games to me, just in an adult form and more sci-fi leaning. If you want something a little bit familiar when you're leaning into a new genre, go with Red Rising. So the last of the 5 that I'm going to recommend to you today is if you just want something that is silly and just makes you feel happy when you read it and is yet still so entertaining and engaging that you're like, man, I really want to read a book about cats in space. And that for you is Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. This is so much fun. It is absurd. It is just everything I want in a sci-fi when I want something really fun to read. And so this follows Captain Eva Innocente as she and her crew are, you know, doing things in space. She gets a call from her sister's kidnappers, and they basically like say, you can't tell your crew what's going on, but you have to do this job for us, or these jobs for us to get your sister back. And it is just a comedy of errors after that. And yes, there are actually cats in space, as you can see from the little fellas on the cover. So cute. But yes, I highly recommend this one. It's so much fun, and I cannot wait to read the sequel myself. All right, so those are the main 5 that I definitely would recommend to you guys, but I also wanted to talk about some like honorable mentions of ones that I really love, but are a little bit different. First up, YA. Now, I have 3 here, 2 of which are more fantasy leaning, and 1 is more sci-fi. So if you want something that is familiar in like age range to you, you don't want to dive right into adult sci-fi, these are probably your best pick. So we have Sky Hunter by Marie Lu and Iron Widow by Sharon J. Zhao. So both of these I would pitch as sci-fi fantasies because they follow the familiar tropes and things of a fantasy, especially a YA fantasy that we know, but they have like technology added in, which gives us the sci-fi leaning element. So Iron Widow is absolutely friggin' feral, and it is not a story about good and evil. It is about a girl who just wants to hurt everyone who has hurt her, and she uses everything at her disposal, including the incredible technology that is at her disposal, to do so. And Sky Hunter is about a society that is just at war with these people who keep encroaching on their territory and keep doing this. Our main character, she loses her partner at the beginning of this because in this world she is an elite fighter. They are called strikers. And at the beginning of this, she loses her partner. You're not supposed to do that, obviously. You're supposed to protect your partner at all costs. But at the beginning of this, she ends up being paired up with a prisoner from the other side. And this prisoner is different. He is like part machine, and he is what they call a sky hunter, I do believe. Is that what they call him? I'm not sure. It's been so long since I've read this book. It has like elements of technology in it, and it is familiar with its tropes of, you know, a world that's, you know, crumbling to war and that kind of stuff. And our main character has to kind of deal with that and the encroaching enemy on, you know, yeah, I'm doing a terrible job at describing these, but definitely these 2 if you want something that has the sci-fi elements added into a familiar YA fantasy kind of vibe when you're reading them. If you want just straight up sci-fi, YA sci-fi, go with Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. He is a genius writer. I read this in one day, and this is a big chunky boy. I loved this. So this is set on a different planet with Spensa, and her entire human, you know, colony type of thing lives under the surface of the planet because there are alien races who keep attacking them on the daily, basically. In this society, the highest members of society are the pilots who go out and basically fight these battles with these aliens to make sure that they don't come down and hurt all the people who are living under the surface. Spensa desperately wants to become one of these pilots, but because her father was branded a coward because he abandoned his team in one of these fights, she is not allowed to become a pilot. No one likes her, kind of a thing. Takes off from there, she finds a ship. There's a lot of like actual space flying and stuff, and I believe there's actual schematics of the planes in this book, which is really, really cool. So you get actual stuff like that in this book, which I really loved, and I found it really approachable, all of the technology that was added in. Now, for if you just want more recommendations in the adult genre that are a little bit harder to grab your teeth around, I have, of course, I had to mention this in this video, and that is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is a just absolutely batshit crazy sci-fi with fantasy elements as well. So it's set on these like far-ranging planets, and it has like pop culture references, and it's got like necromancy added in. So there's your kind of fantasy element of the necromancy, but it's still set in space, which is really cool. And it's like this is specifically like a whodunit kind of a thing. We love it, and I really like it. But I would say that this is definitely not for the faint of heart, because I had no idea what was going on throughout most of it, and that's okay. I love that. As you'll see with the next recommendation, I love not knowing what's going on when I know I'm going to be satisfied when I find out what is going on. And that is what this book gave me. Now, another book that gave that to me was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. So this is more of an urban sci-fi than any of the others that I mentioned today, because this is set in New York City, and it is the embodiment of New York and her boroughs in people. And it is like them trying to save New York from this outside force that is trying to kill it, kill the city. And it's like alternate universes and a little touch of Portal Fantasy, just maybe not even, I don't know if Portal Fantasy is in this, but it was bizarre, and it deals with like tentacle things, and it has a few fantasy elements as well, because I think it is very difficult to separate sci-fi and fantasy and genre, because usually a lot of the elements we have in fantasy show up in sci-fi books. You just have technology in sci-fi, or, you know, just otherworldly strangeness that deals with technology at its base. This was just bizarre and wonderful, and I absolutely loved it, and I really, really recommend it. I think last in my recommendations list is The Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. This leans more into the Becky Chambers side of things and the contemporary side of things, because this is based not really in our world, but in the real world kind of a thing. Like, it's a city, it's people, and it deals with music above all. But the sci-fi elements of this is a family basically that are refugees from another planet who run a donut shop in this book. I will warn you, there's a lot of trigger warnings for homophobia and transphobia and abuse on all those levels, because our main character, Katrina, is a trans girl, and she goes through it in this book, and it's brutal to read. But it is sci-fi too. Very, very like light sci-fi. But anyways, my friends, that is it from me today. This was a quick video because I am crunched for time. I do apologize if I'm talking really fast, but I really hope you took something from this video. And if you want to see more like beginner or just in general recommendations, please let me know down below what you want to see from me, and I will be more than happy to do those videos for you. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, because it really helps me as a creator, and comment down below what your favorite sci-fi book is, because I want to know. I want to add more to my list and keep expanding my sci-fi repertoire. Anyways, my friends, I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.